All right, guys, welcome back to our Sunday weekly wrap up. We've had some interesting things happen this coming week. I'm sorry, this past week with the crypto markets. And so now we're going to take a chance to look at what has happened in the previous week and what can we expect as we're getting ready for our weekly and monthly close. So guys, you know how we start every Sunday, which is by first looking at Bitcoin dominance. And as you see here, as we look at what's going on here on the chart, we basically have been in a range here for weeks to months where we've had price action for Bitcoin dominance attempt to create a newer high, and it's failed to do so. And so for the last couple of weeks, we've been anticipating price to drift into this area of support, a major area of support, by the way. And we had experienced some of that, which is when we look here, and we'll zoom in a little bit more. When we look here, we've had some price action drifting into this area of support that we have been monitoring now for the past few weeks. And what we expect is, initial price into this area was going to give us a little bit of bounce. And we saw that here in the past week. And so, but we know overall, because this is a downtrend, that we expect price to maybe consolidate in this area before we drift lower. And what this can translate to is prices in the crypto market in its entirety giving us bearish price action, which is prices coming down. And that is what we are experiencing. So I expect some consolidation in this area of support before we continue lower, even a little bit of relief, and we pop back up just a little bit before we continue lower. And that can be translated with us seeing more bearish price action with crypto for the rest of the week. But we'll take a look to see at the other charts to see what it really looks like for everything else here. So guys, that is Bitcoin dominance. We've drifted into this area of support that we've been waiting for. We've experienced some pop of price action, but nothing really sustainable to change our overall bias, as well as we could expect maybe some consolidation and or further drift lower into the supply zone. All right, guys. So now we're going to look at the altcoin index. And so when we look at what we've been paying attention to this past week, we were waiting for prices to come into this area, and we got it just a little bit before we saw our turnaround. And because this is almost a direct correlation to what we see in Ethereum, as far as structure, we've gotten this massive rally that we've had over the past few weeks. And we had the sideways consolidation before we started to drift lower. So guys, here, these arrows are from our video from last week, which was what we were expecting to see what could possibly happen with the altcoin index. And as you see here, we pretty much did get that. We fell to an area of support, and how you could tell is from price action in history. We had this large spike into area of support, and we pulled back higher. So when we reached these same areas again, we fell down lower, pulled back up, excuse me, pulled back up. Okay. And we are currently still sitting right there at this price action supportive level. So what we're looking at now is we're going into this final week of August, which is the weekly close and a monthly close to be expected. So I would expect, maybe some more consolidation. We might drift a little bit lower or experience another pop higher. And that's really just going to be determined by what we expect to see with Bitcoin dominance itself, as well as if there's going to be any other macro news, as well as fundamentals that comes out with Ethereum, given that we are preparing for the merge next month. So guys, that's what I'm looking at for the altcoin index. Much like Bitcoin dominance, some consolidation before we decide to drift lower in the short to midterm, as well as if we do want to make one more price run up before we drift lower. So we pay attention to what we can possibly see here to come this week. And so now we're going to jump straight into the Bitcoin chart. And so we had been monitoring this wonderful flag pattern now for the past few weeks. And we finally got our break this week. And what we're doing now is we're actually sitting on a pretty decent level of support. Not something too major because overall the trend is still bearish. However, when we hit a level of support and depending on how long price stays in that area and it consolidates, then we usually see a little bit of relief. However, given that it is Sunday and we have to really anticipate what price is going to do once the traditional markets are open tomorrow, we're going to expect to see what's going to happen here. But my bias still remains that we're going to come back and at least retest the bottom of this flag pattern anywhere between 17.5 and 18. And depending on what we get once we complete this flag pattern, that we may experience some more relief before we decide to head lower, and or it's just going to make its move. So guys, remember when it comes to crypto, especially when it comes to crypto, wait for price to do what you expect it to do based on your bias and then react. Don't try to predict so much what's going to happen. Allow the charts to give you the direction that you are expecting. And that's really one of the biggest things when it comes to crypto itself and trading, as well as investing, is you want to be able to remove your emotion from it and be understanding of what's going on with price action at that moment. And based on what you are aware of with technical analysis, to make a decision, an informed decision about how to execute on your plan. So guys, that is Bitcoin. We're expecting prices eventually to drift down and retest at least the bottom of this flag pattern. And depending on what happens there, or anywhere really between here and there, what type of response we'll get. And that's going to let us know if we're going to finally revisit that 13 to 15K level before we turn around, or if we're going to get the turnaround first. So guys, that is Bitcoin. And now Ethereum. Very interesting. So Ethereum made a massive run, and we kind of saw that pretty much with all of the altcoins during these last few weeks as we experienced a really good relief rally. And so as of right now, we gave back a lot of those gains that we had received during this rally. And so now we're going to pull out our trusty tool and see where we're sitting at now in midst of this rally, which is we gave away a major level of support here at the 38.2% level, or 1570 to say the least. And we're pretty much in no man's land. I'm expecting prices to eventually maybe sideways consolidate before we head lower down into the $1,300 level. Given that Bitcoin and Bitcoin dominance is pretty much leading the way for the overall direction of where the alts are going to go, that if it's going to slip lower, we expect the rest of the market to continue to do so, giving once again the macro environment of what's going on. Even though we have the anticipation of the merge coming up, it could be priced in. Only time will show us that once the event is actually underway. But for me right now, that is where I am looking at. I want price to come down and visit 1300, and eventually we will definitely see what happens once we get there, because anywhere lower doesn't look good. I don't think we're going to go that low. I want to see eventually a $600 to $800 Ethereum, and from there we hope to see that we are hit with some levels of support to give us an indication that we may be done with this cycle. All right, guys, so now we're going to jump over to Solana. This is one that we went over last week, and we were basically talking about how in history we had this bit of price action happen here, where we had prices respect these levels of support before we continue higher. And we pretty much attempted to repeat the same pattern here. And instead, we got a breakdown, which was something that we were anticipating for. And interesting enough, we are right at these levels of these lows that we were expecting to be met as retest. And we have another level lower before that, around $25. So Solana is pretty much following trend with Ethereum as well as with Bitcoin. And we may be revisiting these lows again. So I'm pretty much on the sidelines with Solana right now, given Ethereum is going lower, Bitcoin is going lower. It's only a matter of time before we have followed through price action with Solana. So I, much like Bitcoin and Ethereum, expect some sideways consolidation movement between the $30 level and the $25 level. And we will basically hope to see if that's going to hold out as a bottom. If not, then we can, definitely see anywhere between $16 and $17. And that would pretty much give us the catalyst that we're looking for if we're expecting Bitcoin to hit 15K. So guys, that is Solana. I'm expecting this move to completely finish out here to visit the $25 level, given the $30 level does not hold, but only time will tell as we get ready for the weekly and monthly close. Okay, guys, so now we're going to jump into Jasmine, which was a selection by one of our clients here. And they wanted to see, okay, this has been a very interesting price action that we see here. There's a big, massive blow up top here that we see where prices have respected, the 1 cent, 1.25 cents level. And we're basically in this range. So we're going to go up to the daily chart to give us a little bit more information. And so this is very interesting since we have basically been trading sideways even with this one. And so now when we look at where price is taking us, we see that there has been an area of support that has acted as such in the past, right here with Jasmine. And it's safe to say that we pretty much are going to retest the bottom of this area of support, much like it has done in the past. Now, what makes this very interesting is considering that we've had so many retests in the past and prices have failed to increase in value or climb higher, then, is this possible where we actually create a new low? Yeah, could be possible. Very much could be possible, given that we've had these multiple retests in the past and we've rejected every attempt to push higher. And so is that to say that the price on this is going to just go straight there? No, not necessarily. If anything, we may, retest this area, do a little bit of relief before creating a new low, which will also coincide with the fact that if we are expecting new lows on both Bitcoin and Ethereum, it's pretty much a given that alts will follow through with that type of price action. So I want to see first, this level retested for support. And then if we're going to get a little bit of relief, next follow through, pretty much like it's done here in the past, and it's also done here in the past as well as here, that if we get some relief before we continue lower, very much possible. And that's pretty much how price action works when it comes to any market, is when you have an area of support that's been revisited multiple times and we don't get an initial break, we usually get a reaction, and that reaction may give us a little bit of relief to our nearest level of resistance before we continue lower. So that's what I'm looking at for Jasmine. Pretty much, I want to see prices come down and retest the bottom of this area of support. And then once we get a reaction from price there, then we know what to do next. So guys, that is Jasmine. All right. And also another request was stated, one of my favorite tokens that performed very well during the bull run. And so now when we look at, price action now, this thing did something very massive during this entire time. Prices were literally a penny before it ran up to $15. And as of right now, as you see right here for our level of support, which is around $1. And so as we zoom in more and see what's going on here, we pretty much had the same type of pattern on theta as we had with other altcoins, which is we had this flag pattern. Yes, that's probably not a perfect flag, but that's not what matters here. Is the fact that the price action is what gave us this pattern in the first place. And so now as we zoom in here, we can see that much like Ethereum, much like Solana, we had this flag pattern breakdown, and then we had a retest, and now we're falling lower. And so I'm expecting for this $1 psychological level to be hit and some consolidation beforehand. Given that, there's not many levels of support lower than there, and given the type of project that theta is, if we were to break below that $1 level, then pretty much looking at 50-60 cents to see if it's going to give us a bottom. But once again, we want to allow this to continue to play out, and then we take a look at what we get in response once we hit the $1 psychological level. So guys, that is theta. We're going to keep an eye on that. And now this was a bonus request from, once again, our clients wanting to take a look at XRP. XRP, boy. All right. So guys, we know that this is one token that has definitely caused a lot of ruffle and stir when it comes to, the lawsuit that's going on, and really the price suppression that we experienced during the entire bull run with XRP, that we didn't get any really realized gains. We had gotten a retest, if not even really the high. We got a retest of price, and we've been pretty much sideways drifting lower since then. And so it's really amazing because we are literally right at the lows once again, which ultimately this last low is at about 31 cents. We haven't seen major declines in Ripple, with XRP, given the type of decline in price action that we've gotten across the board with the rest of the altcoins. So given that, if we look here at this area of support that has been, since 2018, basically, what can we expect? The fact that, XRP didn't really have a bull run compared to the rest of the alts because of the issue going on with the lawsuit and major price suppression. The fact that, it's difficult for most people to even buy this token right now, that this is the kind of choppy price action that we've been experiencing for the last year, pretty much. And so now, what can we say? Price can come back and revisit these lows again into the 20s. But we have to once again see what happens once we come down into the 30-cent, 31-cent range, and expect some consolidation there, much like how we've had here and here and here. And so if we get this type of rounded bottom to play out, much like we have in the past, and we see prices give us some response, given that most people are not aware that XRP is part of the ISO 22 launch that's supposed to be happening in November. Guys, if you're not familiar with that, please take the time to go and research that or comment below, and we will definitely provide you with some information on that. That this is probably what XRP is waiting for before we actually get follow through price action. Like I said, because this has been suppressed so much in form of the price action that we're expecting, given the lawsuit, giving all of the manipulations, particularly for this token itself, that there's not much more further lower that XRP can experience compared to the rest of the alts, because they experience gains, that eventually we're going to bottom out and the realized price action that we should have experienced during the bull market will occur. given what happens with the lawsuit, given what implementation XRP will have with ISO 22, we're basically keeping an eye to see if these levels of support, for example, the low here, if we were to come and look at the absolute low here, 9 cents. Is it to say that we can revisit 9 cents? I'm not too sure about that. I want to see this range be respected anywhere between, let's see here, 15 cent and where we currently are now, which is a lot of price action. However, if it's proven to us in the past that it's been able to be stable and strong level of support, then that's what we're really anticipating, is to see how price action is going to respond once it hits the major area of support in these levels. And then what type of consolidation price action do we get as follow through? So guys, I personally, non-financial advice, invested in XRP and much of the other coins here. This one here has by far been manipulated the most, along with price suppressed the most because of what's going on. So I would not make any moves until price come into these levels. If you are an investor, if you're a trader, you can pretty much short this if you choose. Once again, non-financial advice. But guys, that is what we are looking at for the week. Please like, subscribe, and comment your favorite tokens that you would like for me to go over in next week's video. And also check out the links in the description to learn more about what we do here, because we do offer multiple services. Technical analysis is one. We do teach crypto education, as well as we have other services like stock option signals. So guys, that's it for the day. Stay tuned for next week as we look to see how our biases play out for the week and what anticipation we have for September. Have a wonderful day, guys. See you next week.